Everyone working on board ship performs an important task because they're contributing to the effective functioning of an essential worldwide transport system. The safe and efficient operation of the 40,000 or so ships which make up this transport system requires many thousands of competent seafarers with proven professional skills and knowledge. With continuing need for seafarers all over the world, there are many opportunities for young men and women to start or further their careers at sea. Today a cadet, tomorrow a chief engineer or a master. Many of these seafarers are working towards a top job in the future. As the industry evolves, so do the skills required. Modern technology has invaded the wheelhouse as well as the engine room, not to mention the cargo control room and galley. And for each task, the seafarers' skill and knowledge levels need to be consistent. They must have the same minimum level of competence. To provide for this need, the International Maritime Organization has established a recognized minimum standard of competence for each function on board ship. These minimum standards are prescribed in the Stcw 95 Convention. The Convention requires governments to ensure that seafarers are provided with adequate, shore-based and on-board training to attain the required minimum standards of competence. Ship operators must ensure that the seafarers in their employ meet the prescribed minimum level of competence for the functions they perform. The purpose of this video is to describe the role of companies in the process of on-board training and evaluation, and the subsequent official competence-based assessments which may take place on board or on shore. This may lead to the issuing of certificates of competence by shore-based authorities.
Now that we've seen how you set up all your navigation equipment, we're now going to look at the three items here to see how we can put it all together.
Knowledge-based training and assessment has been established for many years.
Here we have the whole picture on 1070 for long range. We're feeding in with a
governments or individual shipping companies have defined their own training needs and had learning programs designed to meet them.
On the radar screen. We'll move down now to the next display. The next part in the setup is one of the newer pieces of equipment we're going to get for navigation, is an electronic charting system.
Before Stcw 95, the standards of training and competence were variable. The only certainty was that the learning program had been completed.
Supported by a government hydrographic agency such as the Admiralty, NOAA in America, the Australian and Canadian hydrographic agencies.
One of the main aims of Stcw 95 and the ISM code was the standardization of the training outcome at a minimum required level, followed by competence-based assessment. This means that knowledge is treated as one component of overall competence, alongside the demonstrated skill, understanding and experience of performing individual tasks.
Okay guys, this is the captain and chief engineer. Morning. Charlie.
How do you do, Captain?
Sanjay.
Hi, nice to meet you.
John. This is Noel.
Hi, nice to meet you,
Charlie.
How do you do, Chief?
Well, welcome aboard. Just like to run through how your on-board training is going to take place.
In practice, this means that before they can be given responsibility as watchkeeping officers, trainees are given on-board training in the tasks involved in the jobs for which they're seeking a certificate.
If you have any problems during the training period, please go to your training officer first of all, and he will liaise with the head's department. Good luck with your training.
Okay, do you want to give us your books?
Training is given by designated officers, and its progress is evaluated by experienced senior officers.
Right. To deck. 2 engine. Right.
Both the training schedule and the results of the evaluations must be recorded and countersigned by the supervising senior officers who carry out the evaluations.
Right, okay.
This record book will then serve as an important part of the evidence of competence to be submitted to the official assessors working in the assessment centres.
Engineers. Have you done any technical courses?
Yeah, yeah.
So you've had basic engineering training?
Right, yeah.
Okay, Deck, you've had some basic seamanship?
Yep.
In accordance with the Stcw 95 convention, the training is grouped under 7 functions: navigation, cargo handling and stowage, controlling the operation of the ship and care for persons on board, marine engineering, electrical, electronic and control engineering, maintenance and repair, and radio communication. These are normally grouped into deck or engineering departments, and there are 3 levels: support, operational, and management. In the Stcw 95 code, the training and assessment components are made up of competence units. These relate to the function and the level for which a candidate is being trained and assessed. All the competence units the candidate requires should be contained in the training record book. Each component must be evaluated and countersigned by the onboard supervisor.
Okay, I think that's it. If you go, I'll give you back your books. You can go back to your cabins, get yourself settled in, and tomorrow...
Training should begin as soon as practicable after the newcomers have joined the ship.
But I think that's it.
The 2 candidates we shall follow in this programme hope to obtain operational level qualifications, one as a deck officer, the other as a marine engineering officer. This cadet has completed his formal studies. He has also spent some sea time on board a coastal vessel and has attended a short course at a marine college on shore.
Come in. Hi, Cheetan. How are you? This is your...
You wanted to say me about
This
the
cadet
next-
has spent 2 years at a marine engineering
fully
college.
signed up.
Having filled in the personal details in his training record book, he attends a briefing session with his training officer, where they agree on a suitable timetable and set a number of target units of competence for his first training period.
It'll all
Sure,
come
it'll-
to you very
yeah.
quickly, so that's no problem. Yeah. Then we compare.
With a suitable timetable established, the practical training begins.
No.
As early as possible, the candidate should start to gain practical experience in the execution of the agreed competence
We have the
units.
guidance lines, so when we place it onto the chart, we can line it up correctly into position.
Each unit is observed and practiced until the candidate is confident that the task has been learned. Now, a process of self-assessment begins, one of the characteristics of the new assessment process.
Corrections, so we'll start something else now for the next couple of weeks. I think
The candidate needs to understand why a unit of competence is required and how it fits into his overall function. Questions can be discussed with or guidance sought from the training officer.
Demonstration on how to do it.
Most problems can usually be resolved very quickly.
How long will it take?
It should take a couple of hours for the basic instruction. Okay, the cadets have been on for a month now. They seem to be settling in quite happily.
It's vital that senior management on board takes an active interest in the training and assessment process.
For a first trip, they're doing well so far. On deck, they seem quite happy. They're doing their training. I don't know about the engineers.
Yeah, the cadets in the engine room are doing well. Their basic engineering skills, machine work are fine. I'd like to see them get more involved in fuel systems, bunkering, and general ship systems.
We're taking bunkers in the next port, aren't we?
Yeah, but we're taking fuel and lube oil.
Perhaps we can organise some time for that.
How are you getting on then? You've been here a few weeks now.
Yeah, everything's going quite well. Still need to get my head around the various bunker tanks, but yeah,
Senior management commitment is a key motivator for both the candidates and those officers responsible for the training and evaluation.
Tank and where the valves are and everything.
Right, I see. Got the neutralised sample here.
Yeah, it's fine.
Jacket water. I'm now going to add BC1 in.
So the candidates acquire the required standard of competence in the tasks set out in their training plans. As they progress, they can ask their onboard supervisors to evaluate their performance and sign off their training record book accordingly.
Pull that out. Readings 0.785. Yeah.
Okay, I'm about to examine you on the radar switch on and setup procedure.
Right, okay. Right, before switching it on, I have to make a visual check of the scanner, make sure there's no obstructions of personnel or equipment, and then switch it on. I would check the gyro heading from the repeater over there.
Okay, is it correct at the moment?
Yes, it's correct now.
Evaluation of the ability to perform a task is the most important element in the competence-based assessment process. It must be taken very conscientiously by the senior officers concerned. Their countersignature gives credibility to the records of achievement. These records form part of the evidence of competence used by the assessors in their deliberations.
Probably set it on true motion. And then either north up on the screen.
So, if evaluation and signing off is done casually, it could make this evidence worthless and could unduly penalise the candidate.
Best quality of picture. And finally I'd go down to the gain.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, Cheatham, this is number 3 unit. Now I want you to take a tappet reading and tell me what it is. First of all, what should the tappet reading be?
Should be at 12 thou. Yeah, that one's at 12 thou.
Good.
The evaluation process must be thorough, and if the candidate is found not yet competent, he or she should be encouraged and supported in the further work required to attain competence. If the candidate is found to be competent, then the evaluating officer should show appreciation and encourage the candidate to take on further units towards a certificate.
Pleased to say that, as far as I'm concerned, you did very, very well. There was 1 or 2 points, wasn't there, when I think the safety aspect could be thought out better.
Okay, Noel, you seem to have done basically everything in the book now. I think Andy here is quite happy with your performance. So
Yeah, I mean, he's shown...
When a candidate has completed the units required in Stcw 95 for his certificate, all the evidence of his competence, that is, knowledge, understanding, acquired skills and experience, should be double-checked with his training officer and evaluator before submission for assessment.
that's good. Next thing for us is to make sure it's all signed off, and then when you leave the ship next week, go back to college and good luck in your exams, really. I think that's all we can say, isn't
That's
it?
about it, really.
Hopefully getting a ticket and seeing you next trip, really, won't it? So,
Yeah.
good luck.
Yeah, good luck to that.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, cheers.
One of the responsibilities imposed on governments by the Stcw 95 Convention is that seafarers are assessed by qualified assessors. Assessment sessions could be on board ship, although they're more likely to be on shore. Assessors are required to consider all the available evidence of competence. Part of this evidence is made up of the records of the on-board training and evaluation. Other evidence for the assessment may be collected through the assessor's examination of the skills, understanding and knowledge of each candidate during a programme which must be devised for each level of assessment.
So 130.
This is where the skills of the assessors themselves enter the process.
Just let me know what happens.
Yeah, it's quite steady.
In certain cases there will be written tests. These can take the form of objective tests, numerical tests.
To become
and
a
textual
qualified
tests,
assessor,
depending
candidates
on
must have an
logbooks
intimate
and
knowledge of the
journals
skills
that are kept
involved in the
in order to
competencies
assess
they are
at
to
the end of
assess.
the day's work.
So, a likely candidate may be a company safety officer, a serving engineering officer, or a technical college
And
lecturer
so on
who may have
throughout
had a
the week,
marine
until you
background.
might eventually find that,
With this background,
in
they
assessing
will need to be
candidates.
trained in the
the
skills
first
of
obvious
assessment.
one is to actually
This
observe
means
the
being able to
candidate.
select the best method of assessment, prepare and discuss the assessment with the candidate, observe and record the assessment objectively, and provide a sympathetic and constructive feedback for the candidate after the assessment. This ensures that the
really
assessment is
guarantee the
reliable,
person's competence.
verifiable,
Now, to do
and
that,
repeatable.
We're going to have to question the person. Question the person out of various things that might arise from the observations that you've made, even if the candidate has done the job apparently perfectly correctly.
What I want you to concentrate on is this ship over here. You can see it there, but you need to take
The circumstances of the assessment must be entirely suitable for the purpose. In this case, a shore-based simulator is used. So the assessor has to be familiar with the capabilities as well as the limitations of the simulator.
So 130.
It's important that the assessor discusses the assessment with the candidate and ensures that the candidate understands what is required.
Okay, now this assessment is going to cover some aspects of maintaining a safe navigational watch at the operational level of watchkeeping as required by Stcw 95. What I want you to do is to determine whether or not a risk of collision exists with that vessel over there on the starboard side. Then, of course, to propose any action that might be necessary to avoid collision. Then later on, I shall want to ask you some questions based on that procedure. Do you understand what I'm talking about? Thank you. Okay? Go.
The assessor will apply whatever method the assessment centre has chosen to verify that the candidate has the underlying knowledge and understanding required to carry out the chosen tasks competently. Detailed notes are taken. If the assessment is carried out on board ship, the process must be adapted to suit the ship's operational requirements, whilst ensuring that the assessment remains objective and the right skills are being assessed.
Right, that's explained the different control systems and operations out in the engine room, but mostly today we'll be dealing with the control room because we're looking for faults on the bridge and manoeuvring control system. The engine we're going to deal with is the slow speed engine, a manned B&W with a fixed pitch propeller. All the systems are set up as you would expect for manoeuvring, and we have 2 diesel generators on the board at the moment. The operation will start once the telegraph rings.
I see.
When you're happy that you've identified the fault, just ring me on the bridge.
Right.
Do you understand what the task entails?
Yep, definitely.
Okay then.
An assessment session may well involve written and oral examinations or computer-based testing. The results of these will form part of the total evidence of competence which the assessor will examine before deciding if the candidate is competent or not yet competent.
Hello, seem to identify the problem.
Right. What did we notice in that exercise?
I've noticed that the air seems to be fine, the fuel pressure seems to be okay, the control unit I've looked over and that seems to be working fine as well.
Yeah.
There's no signs of malfunctioning there. The generators seem perfect as well. However, what I have noticed is that the scavenger air limiter lights lit on, and that tells me that the governor control system unit's wrong.
Right, that seems reasonable, yes. What I'd like to do now is if you could write a report about what you've seen, detailing the malfunctions and any other observations that you've seen. And this is to give you some help in writing the report.
Once the session is over, assessors must make sure that their records are correct. This is important because the national administration issuing the certificate may, in certain cases, require verification of the assessment. They may also want to compare the standard with those of other assessors to ensure uniformity of results.
So we've put all the points that we asked you to, have we, in the...
As part of the assessment process, assessors should give an informative and objective feedback to the candidate.
How you actually identified the
They should highlight the aspects that were particularly good and draw attention to areas where the candidate may be less secure. If the conclusion is that further work is needed before the candidate is considered competent, then the feedback should be helpful and encouraging. Conversely, the assessor may inform the candidate that, based on this assessment, he will inform the awarding body that the candidate has attained the correct level of competence.
All we need to do now is complete the...
When all the requirements are satisfied, a certificate of competence can be issued, in this case, that of an operational watchkeeper in the engine room. The awarding body will examine the records of the official assessor and verify the results of the assessment. If the recommendation is that a certificate of competence be issued, this will be done by the national administration. The main function of each participant in the new certification process is established as ship's officers, training and evaluation of candidates on board ship; official assessors, competence-based assessment of candidates on board or on shore; national administrations, issuing of certificates and endorsements under Stcw. Gaining a new certificate of competence means many things. For the officer, it means personal satisfaction. For fellow seafarers, it means added safety and reassurance in the knowledge that the ship is in the hands of a fully competent officer. For the shipping company, it means one more well-trained and reliable member of the crew. In the context of Stcw 95, it means that another seafarer has reached the desired level of competence and will contribute safely to the successful development of this vital transport system. The system of competence-based assessment is complex. You may view this video again to reinforce your understanding of it. For further information, read the booklet accompanying this video and view Video Tel's Onboard Training by Design.